financial psychologist. What is a financial psychologist?
Well, I feel like you're calling me out. It's something I made up. Essentially, I got a doctorate in clinical psychology, and and then I got real interested in money. And I come from a lower income
Mm.
family. We used to call them a broken family when I was growing up. Now it's just like, yeah, half of everyone's growing up without a parent in the house. So I was just very curious from an early age why we didn't have money. I looked around, I saw a bunch of hardworking, God fearing, good people seem to be working as hard as anyone else. Um, some of my family's been here since the Mayflower. Why are we in a trailer park? What's going on here? Meanwhile, I see people, we call it in Hawaii, fresh off the boat, like first generation immigrants who are becoming wealthy, who are finding a way towards success. And very early on, I got really curious with what is this mindset? Because clearly it's a mindset. It's not just about working harder. I mean, education matters, of course. But like, what are these people doing? Like that is leading to them being able to get so much massive success in one generation or two, whereas other groups of people, including my lineage in the United States, it just generations and generations, and we got nothing. So I think I got really curious at an early age. I got into psychology for other reasons. I thought, great career. I want to help people. I had a brother who ended his own life when he was a teenager, and I think that got me really curious around why would somebody do that. And a big part of my career was helping kids deal with mental health issues and the struggles they're having in their own families. But I was always really curious about that, and so it's something I started to study and do research on. Like the psychology of millionaires. Like, how do they think differently? What are they doing? I got really, really excited to learn that for personal reasons. And then I've gone on to try to share what I've learned with as many young hustlers as possible.
I didn't mean to call you out there at all.
It's all
It's
good. It's all good.
definitely it's definitely an apt name, I think, for the information that you put out and for what you do. And I think the fact that it's not an official degree or major of some kind is something that should be discussed in and of itself, because clearly we do, as you were saying, have a misfiring on most people's mindset when it comes to money. I mean, I've heard you discuss what you call money scripts. It's like the underlying unconscious beliefs we have when it comes to money. And that's clearly a mental problem or a mental belief issue much more than it is anything else. What are some things that you see in the forefront of that? What are people's main beliefs that limit them?
Yeah, well, I will say this that I kind of did make up the financial psychology thing, but I also made up the degree. So you can actually get a degree at Creighton University right now in financial planning and financial psychology. So the cool thing for me is just seeing that, 20 years ago when I got into this, like nobody was interested in it.
Hmm.
Psychology had pretty much ignored the topic of money. And now, a couple decades later, everyone's talking about it. So that's kind of an exciting thing for me on a personal level. I could have died bitter and angry that nobody cared about this, and I dedicated my life to this. But I'm lucky enough to see that the world's taking some interest, and I think the interest really started when I saw it really take off in the Great Recession, and if our listeners didn't experience that themselves back in 2008, perhaps they saw their parents go through this. It's just like this massive like financial trauma to the entire financial system. And I think everyone started to really question their approach to money on a personal level. And so that's really what Money Scripts is all about. It's taking an honest look at what are the beliefs that you got around money from your parents, from your grandparents, from, as I said, multi generational patterns within my family. And it's such a valuable pursuit to understand your own psychology. I mean, it really helps when it comes to relationships, right? To understand your parents' relationships and your hangups and your mommy issues, your daddy issues. I mean, all that stuff really, really matters when it comes to relationships. Well, the same thing's true when it comes to your relationship with money.
So, what are some of these main beliefs that people find themselves like in your experience working with these people and studying this? What is the top couple that limit them and hold them back?
Yeah, so we have researched over 100,000 people now, looking at their beliefs around money and what predicts higher income, higher net worth.
Hmm.
We all want that, right? And we found a very clear psychological pattern, and it's something that I have two young boys, and it's like it's what I'm trying to instill in them because some of these patterns don't just lead to success financially, they lead to success in every area of your life. But and we can talk about the psychology of success too. We can
Hmm.
broaden it out because it really does matter. But when it's specifically related to money, I'll tell you the good one to start with. So all the self-made multimillionaires we've studied, they all have this one thing, and it's called money vigilance, and they are concerned about the future, believe it or not. They're not out there carefree spending. They're not out there flashing their Rolexes on social media. As a matter of fact, they're doing the opposite. And if you think about it first, if you pause for a second, let go of the FOMO by looking on Instagram and really, really think through like who are these people who are able to start out from humble beginnings and go on to amass multi-millions of dollars. Well, they're not out there spending it as soon as they get it. You know, they're not out there getting their first 100K in a year and then going and leasing a Mercedes and buying a Rolex. I mean, no, 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 no. They have this mindset that I need to save for a rainy day. They have a long-term vision. I'm going to delay gratification. I'm going to experience some pain and suffering right now. It's almost like hitting the gym, right? It's like I'm going to go put myself in a bit of physical misery because in the long run, I'm going to look better. I'm going to be healthier. The same sort of approach with money. It's called money vigilance. It's this belief that the future is important. I need to start saving and investing. We found three utterly self-destructive belief patterns around money. The first one is money avoidance. And this is where you have a negative association with money. Rich people are greedy. You know, money
Hmm.
corrupts people, and you can only become rich by taking advantage of others. And the problem with this belief, as with all the others, you can definitely find examples of people who are evil rich people out there doing terrible things to other people, to the environment, whatever. But that's not all rich people, and not even close.
Hmm.
Most of them are self-made, for example, and that one always trips people up, which I find just sort of fascinating. It's like I'm telling you the truth. Most are self-made, and if as I'm saying this to you, most rich people are self-made. Check inside. And if you have any mental or emotional resistance to this, it's probably because you have some money avoidance. You believe that they're evil or they're
Hmm.
taking advantage of others. They can't possibly be self-made, Dr. Brad. Eat the rich. I get a lot of insults for that. Look, I researched these people because I was tired of being poor. I mean, I'm not trying to sell you anything here at all. But the fact is, most are self-made. Most weren't, born rich. And if you were born rich, that's great. Congratulations. I hope my grandkids are born rich. Nothing wrong with it. Um, the second pattern is what we called money worship. This is where you're putting money on a pedestal. All right.
Hmm.
Now, granted, you just heard me talk about me putting money on a pedestal. Like being poor sucks. I got a best-selling book, Start Thinking Rich, and that's chapter 1. Being poor sucks, and it really does. But if you think that being rich is going to solve all your problems, going to make you utterly happy, if you think that buying that car, that watch, you get the right wardrobe, you get the right house, and now you're going to be happy, it's not true, number one. And number two, that belief mindset leads to like massive consumerism, and people end up having less money, lower net worth, and higher credit card debt as a result. So keep money in perspective. Yes, more would be good. It's not going to solve all your problems. And certainly more stuff is probably going to make you broke. It's not going to make you rich. The third category we called money status. And this is the keeping up with the Joneses. These are the flexers on social media. Um, and quite frankly, those people are broke. And you might say, Dr. Brad, that's not true. I saw their boat. It's like, well, first of all, my first question is, are you sure that was their boat? Number one. Number two, I'd be like, you sure that wasn't their grandparents' boat or their parents' boat? And number three, I would say maybe they're along the path that most people go along when they get a bunch of money quickly, and that is financial ruin. Are they spending through it all? So that's the hypothesis I want you to have when you see the next person flashing stuff on social media, because you got to ask yourself, like, why are they doing it? And I'll tell you why they're doing it. They're utterly insecure, frankly. And so why would you be utterly insecure around money if you're ultra wealthy? You just wouldn't be. And that's what our studies have found, is that rich people tend to actually downplay how much money they have.
I, you mentioned something like money avoidance. I've also found if people are passionate, they track something, and when you track something, change automatically happens, whether it's good or bad. Like whenever people start to eat healthy, or they're like, I want to lose weight, something I often say is, don't do anything different, just track what you're eating, just write it down, and automatically healthier food choices are made because you're tracking it and you're seeing a pattern. Same thing with money. I use an app called Monarch, and I've used Copilot in the past. It's fantastic. I have like all my credit cards, all my accounts, everything linked, and then every single night I just go through, categorize everything, mark it as where it's spent and where it's put, and then every Sunday I just do a weekly financial audit. And I'm not telling myself, I'm not putting any budgets on myself, but so much better money spending habits have been developed just by simply tracking it. It's crazy.
I love it. I love it. And you're really driving home the point that a good success mindset can have ripple effects throughout every area of your life if you do some of that early work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you could be great at fitness, you could be great at eating, you could be utterly disciplined in every area of your life. But if you never really took a look at the finances, you're just missing out on weeks and months and years of opportunity to get on track with that. And one of the most the saddest things and the roughest things, and there's some really good psychological reasons for this, but quite frankly, time is the biggest factor when it comes to wealth.
Mm.
And unfortunately, for most people, they're not paying attention to their financial well-being in terms of how wealthy I want to become, when I want to retire, when I want to have financial freedom. They're not really thinking about that until they're hitting 40s, 50s,
Mm.
and it's terrible. It's awful. I mean, by the way, I don't mean to insult anyone if you're in that position, but I guarantee you, you agree with me. Like, you wish you had thought of this when you were 10 years old. And I'm actually picking on 10 years old because I've got an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they've already got the mindset. And of course, I gave it to them. But the mindset is, I'm going to save and invest a percentage of every dollar I get. And if you have that mindset when you're a child, I don't even care what you do. I don't care if you go to college. I don't care if you work in fast food your whole life. I don't care what you do. You will become probably a multimillionaire,
Mm.
definitely a millionaire, because that time is the biggest factor when it comes to investing and getting growth.
Well, as you mentioned, so much, pretty much all of our money habits are developed at that young age when we're with our parents, whether they discuss it at the table, whether they avoid it. Obviously, you're setting your kids up for success, and I hope to do the same with mine when my wife and I have them. But unfortunately, most people aren't in that situation, especially I'm 28. I mean, people 18 to, let's say, 30 or even later are living at home more than ever, are not buying houses more than ever. There's so many things like that. Do you feel a lot of that is they feel a little bit defeated? Like housing is so expensive, everything is so expensive. Do they feel like, hey, what's the point? I can't save myself to this anyway?
Yes, yes. And let's talk about this because
Mm.
it's really, really important. And what we would call that in psychology is learned helplessness. And oh, it's such a terrible mindset. And if you get nothing else out of our conversation, not you specifically, but everybody, and even as I say it, I need to hear this.
Yeah.
I need to hear myself say it again. Learned helplessness is the absolute worst psychology you can ever have. And essentially, it's what's the point?
Mhm.
It's impossible. And we talk about it again in my book, and we actually tell the story about how psychologists discovered this concept. And I'll tell you about the experiment, frankly, because I don't want you to be the subject in this experiment. So what they did is they would put a dog. It's terrible, by the way. I love dogs. Put it in a cage, and these terrible psychologists would electrify the bottom of the cage so that it was uncomfortable, it was painful. It's
Mhm.
like hitting an electric fence. And the dog, what do you think the dog would do? I mean, it's like, it's barking, it's jumping, it's running to every spot in the cage. It's trying to escape this pain. And then eventually it realizes, escape's impossible. There's nothing I can do. And then it does what evolution would suggest is in your best interest. And that is for you to conserve energy, lay down, and just take it.
Mm.
Okay. So they trained these dogs, they put them in a situation where they were utterly helpless and escape was impossible. And they learned this mindset, I'm helpless. And so then they just engaged in the behavior you should engage in if you're helpless. It's called the freeze response. And this is what animals do. So if you're a gazelle, you get taken down by a tiger, a lion, whatever. And once you realize that death is inevitable, you'll see videos of this. They're terrible, but the animal might even start eating their hindquarters, and the animal's just sitting there. It stopped squirming, it stopped screaming, and basically it has all this like anti-pain body chemicals that are being released that just sort of let it suffer and take it,
Mm.
without maximum levels of pain. Okay, so now the interest, and by the way, I'll say this too. If you grew up poor as a child, I mean, you're pretty much helpless. And, escape is impossible for you. What are you going to do? You're 8. I mean, you're going to go get a job and you're going to go, get secure housing for your family and put food on the table. No, you're helpless. Okay. So a lot of people grow up in that situation, and that can happen financially in other areas too. This is the problem. They then took that same experiment, and this time they divided the cage in half, and they put a little barrier in the middle. Half the cage was electrocuted. On the other half of the cage, if the dog just jumped over the little barrier, boom, no electric shock. So quite literally, you can see it from the outside. It's like all the dog has to do, step over this, right over there, no pain. The dogs who were in that condition before where they were helpless, oh, here's the shock. I'm just going to lay down and take it. They didn't even try to escape. And so that learned helplessness, now, no big surprise here, it's associated with terrible outcomes in your life. And when you see somebody like me, or even a friend or a successful friend, they'll be looking at you in this learned helplessness thing where you're saying, hey, look, the economy's this, it's impossible to do that because of all these reasons, blah, blah, blah. A successful person who's seeing the exact same thing will be like, dude, what are you talking about? like,
Mhm.
like escape is right there. Like, you just read a book or two. Just get this app. Just start tracking your money. Just start saving and investing. Oh, yeah. So maybe you got to wait 10 years longer to buy a house than your parents did. Live at your parents' house. That's a great idea. Are you saving and investing your money? No, you're not. You have the best opportunity to become wealthy by living at your parents' house. Do you know what the number one expense is for people? It's rent. It's mortgage. You could be a massive multimillionaire by living at your parents' house for 10 years and investing what you would have paid for rent. But that requires a different mindset. If you have a learned helplessness mindset, you're just going to spend all your money. You're not going to engage any of the behaviors. Then you're going to wake up when you're 50 going, oh gosh, I should have done that when I was younger.
As a psychologist, what are some things that people can do to change this mindset? Because that's one of the hardest things, especially when you've already been defeated, is like, can you claw your way back to that freedom?
Yeah, well, hopefully, as I was telling the story, you're listening and saying, "I don't want to be that dog in the cage
No, yeah.
anymore," and you're saying, "What? You mean escape is possible for me?" So I think part of it is just getting educated on what's happening in your brain, and I hope you hear too that you arrived at this learned helplessness not by your own fault. Like you literally were in a helpless situation quite often. But the problem is that your context has changed. Reality is very different. You're now an adult. You now are actually the only one in charge of your life, frankly. That's a bitter pill to swallow. But just understanding that the main difference between people who come from even a traumatic upbringing, poverty, the main difference between those people who maintain that, just repeat the patterns, and those that escape is this mindset.
Mm.
And so the learned helplessness is the downside. But what we call it, another way to look at it in psychology research is locus of control. And so I've done a lot of studies on this where I've looked at low income, middle class, wealthy people, and wealthier people are much more likely to have an internal locus of control. And what do I mean by that? Locus of control is the location of control in your life. And there's two types. There's external and there's internal.
Mhm.
Internal locus of control. I'll give you a quick example. So I come home from a hard day at work, you know, and providing for my family, giving my wife the life of her dreams. She might argue. She's not listening right now, so I can say everything's perfect. It's wonderful. Look at all I'm doing for her and the kids. And she gives me some attitude, man. And so she's like, oh, whatever. Just did you do the dishes? You left the house a mess. And I'm like, what? Do you know how much money I just made this week?
Yeah.
All right, so that can happen two different ways. So what happens next is either going to lead to a terrible experience that I'm having in my house with my wife, or I can immediately shift the entire thing. And it comes down to my beliefs
Mm.
around what's happening here. An internal locus control is where you take 100% responsibility for everything that's happening in your life. Okay. Whew. Everything? Yes, everything. Now, you might be making a mistake. Like some of it might not be under your control, but I want you to assume that it all is.
Mm.
And so if I have that mindset, then I will be like, oh, so clearly my wife is feeling that there's something lacking on there, and it's my fault. Let me think about it. Have I been letting her know how much I care about her? Have I been appreciating her? Have I been emotionally available, listening to her on what's going on? Or did I drop the ball? Hey, believe it or not, sometimes I do leave the house a mess. Maybe I did. And maybe as a result of that, she's feeling like I'm not respecting her. So that is the mindset of success, successful relationships, success when it comes to money, an external locus of control. Well, I'm not getting a raise because of my boss. They just don't like me because X, Y, and Z. I can't save and invest because of the economy.
Mm.
I got an F because that teacher didn't like me. Um, my wife is treating me this way because she's a bitch, man. And she's got problems and she's got daddy issues, blah, 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 whatever. And so it's really tempting though, because it just makes you feel better about yourself immediately. This external locus control, like I'm broke because of this and that and the other. And if that's your mindset, you're going to find people to blame it on. And by the way, these are probably going to be terrible human beings that you're blaming it on. Like, well, the economy is extra challenging, and baby boomers are like tight-fisting these homes and not giving us access to them. So the economy is terrible. Whatever. The president, this, the Congress, that. I mean, there's no end of people to blame everything for. The fast food industry, that's why I'm fat, whatever. And there's elements of truth in all that, but it's just a horrific mindset that's going to just keep you stuck and miserable. And we don't want that for you, Chase, right? We don't want that
Yeah.
for them.
Well, I mean, it's Jocko Willink's extreme ownership. I mean, that's basically kind of what we're boiling down to is you have to treat everything like it is on you and it's up to you. And if you have that mindset, whether or not that's true, it allows you and gives you the power to manipulate your situations and manipulate yourself to have and improve yourself to have a better life.
Absolutely. And I'm sure Jocko said it so much better than I did. But that really is the psychology behind it. And so what's great too is you can shift the psychology, by
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I love about him too and other inspirational figures is you look at that and you're like, dang, like human beings can do that. And
Yeah.
wait a second, I'm a human being. So maybe I could do more. And so I love it too. Like role models are always the thing that inspires me the most. And so I'm always trying to, the other thing around shifting the mindset, which was your question too, is like, man, find somebody who's like a step or two ahead of you, where you want to be, whatever it is. You want to be an artist? Do you want to pursue a certain degree? You want to get a certain career? You want to become an author, whatever. Don't talk to people who've never done it. They're going to tell you it's impossible. Find somebody who's done it or is a step or two ahead of you. And that's the mindset you want to immerse yourself in. And it's never been easier. Find their podcasts, read their
Mm-hmm.
books. And you really want to sort of embody that way of thinking if you want those types of results.
Well, Ali Abdaal talks about it as well. It's ideally, like, never talk to the person who hasn't done it. And then if ideally you talk to the person who's just ahead of you, not way ahead of you, because the person who's way ahead of you forgets. They're not in that position. They forget what they had to do at that time versus the person who's just ahead of you. They just had to conquer that. They just had to go through that hardship, and they can give you a lot more actionable insights. And those people are easier to find and more willing to help you than the people who are way down the line usually.
That's absolutely correct. I hadn't thought about it from that lens of they've already forgotten it, and it's totally true. They have. I was always on the lines that they're not going to answer your phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you wanted to get politics, don't try to get a meeting with a president. Like how about if you start with your local city council person because they'll definitely talk to you. They want your vote. And the key is to just repeat. Do that
Yeah.
repeatedly over time. And it's fabulous. And a lot of people too, like what you're really looking for is the mindset, and so it could be like a good example too is you find somebody, you want to be really, really good at pickleball, which by the way is my aspiration right now. Um, it's like, oh, I can't find somebody who's really good at that, but I can find somebody who's really good at tennis, perhaps. And what's the mindset? And how did you become really good at tennis? What was your training protocol? What was your mindset? How did you win matches that were really, really tight? And so, and what you'll find too is people who are really successful, I see, tend to be really encouraging. And if you think about it, their belief is that, of course, it's possible. Of course, why not? Of course, you can do it. And then you just look for, first of all, that's probably the most important mindset is that, of course, you can do it. You talk to people who haven't done it. They're like, oh, these are the reasons why you can, or,
Mm-hmm.
or even worse, they'll laugh at you. Who do you think you are? Give me a break. You'll never do that. I mean, those are the people you want to avoid.
Somebody's listening to this. They've decided, they've looked in, they're changing their mindset. And then the next question is, okay, what's the path for me to start building this wealth and set myself up for success? A lot of people initially think, oh, I need to build a home. That's my best asset, whether or not you want to classify it that as whether or not you want to do. How do you think do you think they should start saving and start going to the home, or should they be investing into the stock market? And what's the best revenue here?
Ooh, yeah. So, yeah. I don't mean to keep referring to my book, Start Thinking Rich, but my co-author and I, Adrian, we have an entire debate in there on whether you should buy a house or
Yeah.
not, and whether it's good for your wealth. And 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 so I don't think that really matters nearly as much as the general mindset of financial freedom.
Mm,
Like to me, that's the ultimate financial goal, and I mean, to me, that's the definition of rich. The definition of rich for me is owning your time,
mm,
like where you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want. Now, the doing whatever you want might require some money, but the first thing you got to buy back is your time. I mean, it's your most precious resource. So for me, that's the ultimate goal is how can I own my time? And as I mentioned, I have kids, and when I was growing up, single parent. I saw my dad on the weekends, but he didn't have any time to spend with me. He's working 5 jobs, 10 jobs. I don't even know how much, how many jobs he's working just to make ends meet. And but for me, like true wealth is like, wow, I get to live in a beautiful place. But more importantly, I got time, man. I coach my kids' baseball teams. I'm there. I'm dropping them off at school, picking them up, taking them here, taking them there. I'm really focused on spending as much time as I can with them. And so, if that is your goal, like I want to own my time, I, it's kind of only one way to do it, and that's investing. And so, the best mindset I think is I'm going to save and invest a percentage of every dollar I make. Now, personal finance experts will disagree around this. Some say 10%. I think that's okay. But for me, I wanted to become richer than that. And I wanted to get there faster than
mm,
that. And so for me, I shot for 30% of my income. I know people saving and investing 50%. And if you live at your parents' house, like, oh my gosh, do 75%.
yeah.
Um, and if you do it when you're young too, oh my gosh, you're going to be a multimillionaire. Like my 12-year-old is, he's already got like 10 grand invested. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, you gave him that money. No, I didn't. Like that's birthday money, that's holiday money. He mows lawns. He's a little hustler because he's trying to get money to do whatever. And so he's been doing that since he was about 8, and he's already amassed over $10,000, and half of that has been market returns. And so we do the math on that, and it's like, even if he didn't do a whole lot more, he's going to be a millionaire by the time he's 50, just from watching that ride for 40 years. And so really, it's the mindset of paying yourself first. It's probably the most important wealth building mindset there is. And then with that money, you're investing it in your financial freedom.
I was listening to somebody talk about this. If they bought the iPhone day of release for the MSRP, from iPhone 1 all the way to up to 17, versus if they instead bought Apple stock at the same exact price at the same day, if they bought all 17 iPhones, I think the total cost they had to spend is like $22,000. But if they bought the same amount in Apple stock on that same day, they would be at like $330,000 worth of money.
Oh my gosh, I love it. What an amazing idea to illustrate such an incredibly important point. And by the way, too, like my 8-year-old, he's like, he's really into Roblox. Is that what you call it, Roblox? I always get it confused with Robux because he's always trying to buy the Robux, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man? And so I got him owning Roblox stock and
Yes.
talking about it, like, hey, man. All these kids are dumping all their money in there, like you're trying to do right now. How about if you own some of that money and get some of those returns? And by the way, I'm not endorsing that stock. This is just an example of a way to sort of approach that with kids. It's like they really like eating at McDonald's. It's like, all right, well, how about if we it's just a great way to teach ownership in terms of investing. My best recommendation too is frankly probably try to avoid individual stocks if you're out there as an individual investor. I am a financial planner. I manage over $1 billion for people. And so we do stocks, but understand this, it's constant analysis, lots of research. We pay a lot of money for it. Meanwhile, like index investing is if you're a do-it-yourselfer, let's just get really tactical here. If you're a do-it-yourself investor, I strongly recommend that you research these things called target date funds. And if you're young, it's going to put most of that money in equities, some international, some domestic, US, outside of the US, a little bit of bonds and some real estate in there probably and some other stuff. But it's just a great way to get the job done where it'll automatically adjust as you get older to become more conservative. It's a beautiful do-it-yourself choice. Because if you start getting into trading, you are going to wreck yourself. Okay. And I had to learn this the hard way. I mentioned I grew up low income. I got out of school about your age, 29 years old. I was $100,000 in debt, student loan debt. Terrible experience for me. I grew up poor, but my mom was always like, never, ever borrow money for anything. It was the only way I could get through school, though. I had no choice. I got through college with some sports scholarships, but for grad school, man, I had to pay all that and borrow money for it. And I saw a friend of mine make $100K in a year trading. And I was like, oh, here we go. Because I was sitting next to him and I remember him buying a stock and I'm like, well, what is that? He's like, I don't know. Click. And I saw him make 100,000. It reminds me of like crypto right now. And you hear all these stories of people making all this money trading. And I was like, dang, man, I can get out of debt. So I sold my truck, which is the only thing I pretty much had. Bought a $400 car, literally, that leaked. And I had to drill holes in the bottom because it had all this water in the morning. I lived in Hawaii. No, seriously, man, I would roll up my pants. This is a true story. I'd take off my shoes. I was living in Hawaii. I would drive barefoot because I had water that would collect. It rained all the time in Hawaii. And I'd hit the gas and the water would rush back and then the brake and all the water would rush forward. And I eventually went in and drilled holes in the bottom of the car to like, and bondoed the top. Anyway, I'm off the story here, but I was like, I'm going to take all my money. I'm going to save and invest it. And I started a day trade with it. And I did great for about 3 or 4 months. And then the tech bubble burst. And I lost pretty much all my money. And that, to be honest, that's what made me become a financial psychologist. I'm like, why did I do that, man? That's crazy. Then I just uncovered all this psychology around it. And I was like, oh, I get why I did it. And it was stories for me. It was like, this is how my grandpa, for example, lost all his money in the Great Depression. I can't even imagine it. So he's around your age. He goes to the bank and all the money's gone, like everything. and the bank's closed and no one's answering the door. To utter collapse, never got a dime of it back. Well, he came up with a money script, and here it is. You can't trust banks with your money. Okay, perfect example of a totally true belief back then. The problem is that the federal government came in and guaranteed bank accounts like right after that, like up to 100K, you're not going to lose all your money. My grandpa's like, yeah, no way, no way. And so he lived in a trailer park, he passed away in a trailer park, never put a dollar in the bank the rest of his life. Like, he's like, not doing it. And I didn't know that story until I was trying to figure out why I lost all my money day trading. And went home and interviewed my mom. She's told me that story. I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder I did what I did. Because my parents and grandparents never invested a dime. And then I was introduced to this idea, oh, this is what rich people do. This is how people get rich. And then I jumped in the most riskiest possible way, lost all my money. And if I hadn't been a psychologist saying, okay, why did I do that? Because external locus of control was like, well, it was the tech bubble. And it was these companies who were lying to us and blah, blah, blah. It was these greedy financial institutions that were letting people like me trade on margin. There's all sorts of people to blame. But luckily, I blamed myself. And I said, why did I do something so dumb? And just finding that family history, I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder I did it. No wonder. And it really helped me shift the entire narrative.
Well, Morgan Housel talks about it in his book, The Psychology of Money. Your chances of making money in the stock market across one day are 50-50, across a year, 68%, across 10 years, 88%, and then across 20 years, 100% so far. And so time is your biggest friend there, both for odds of making money, but also the compounding of interest.
That's exactly right. And so if I could turn anyone on to a tool, I would look at a compound interest calculator. Compound interest calculator. You just Google it. There's a bunch of free ones. And man, just start plugging in numbers there. It's like, well, if I save and if I invest like $300 a month, what will that be worth at 8-10% return? Like the US stock market has returned over 10% a year for 100 plus years. If I did that for this many years, how many years would it be this? I started to play with that when I was about 30, and it set me on the track I'm on. So it's the way to go. Experiment with it.
The problem is people don't have the patience or the will to do that. They want money now. And like you were saying, more people than ever are starting to get interested in finance and financial videos. I was watching on YouTube videos about the finance industry do the best out of every YouTube video, just for retention, for clicking, for all that kind of stuff. It's really interesting. But unfortunately, I feel like most people are coming to it with the idea of like, okay, now I'm going to get money over the next year versus planning 10, 20, 30, 40 years out.
Right. Yes, it's a challenge. So I do a lot of social media content, and that's the people you're competing with, is like the how to get rich right now and how to trade your way to wealth and all that. And man, I just wish that was the way it was done. Frankly, I'd love to be making those videos for people. But the fact is, I am a scientist. I've read the research. I've conducted the research. 97% of traders lose their money. And of the three, so imagine 97 out of 100, right? The three people who make money, only one of them makes more than minimum wage. And it's like, man, those are terrible odds. Meanwhile, as you said, 100% of the people who put money in like a S&P 500 over a 20-year period, 100% of them made money,
Yeah.
And so it's like, I get it too. Like when you grow up low income, when you're poor, you're feeling desperate. It's like you just fall prey to these get rich quick schemes. I mean, I did. And so, and that just keeps people mired down and stuck.
There was this, I want your opinion on this, but I think I know what it's going to be, but I'm interested to hear it anyway. Elon Musk made a tweet like 4 weeks ago, and I saw it pop up and I was like, that's interesting. But the quote was, this is what he said: "There will be no poverty in the future, and so no need to save money. There will be universal high income."
Wow.
He was
Okay.
he was
All right.
replying to Ray Dalio, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Interesting. When when I was growing up, it's like you don't need to save and invest because we're all going to die from nuclear war. Like we used to have these nuclear war drills where I'm in elementary school and we're all like huddled in the hallway with, your hands over your head. Like this is going to protect you from the nuclear fallout. And I literally know people from my generation who in that moment go, "Oh my gosh." And like the current generation, it's like I've heard this so many times. We don't need to save and invest. The whole world's going to die from global warming. And it's like, what? Like, I
Mhm.
hope you're right. Um, because you're going to be broke. So, all right. So Elon Musk, super smart guy, the whole discussion around universal basic income, all the AI threats. I get it. I get it. I get it. I'm the type of person though, who would be like, why don't you just go ahead and hedge your bet?
Mm,
It's like we may not die from nuclear war. Um, Entire generation weren't saving during World War II, World War One, because the whole world's going to come to an end. Maybe it's an asteroid. I don't know. Um, just hedge your bet. Like just save and invest a percentage of your income just in case the world doesn't blow up or you never have to work again because of AI.
what would be the actionable? So let's say somebody's listening to this, they get to this point. Actionable steps. Okay, I need to start saving and investing um, an X percentage. Would that percentage just be whatever they can spare at the time? Try to ideally start at 10%, and then if they can do more down the line. And then should they open like a Fidelity account or Robinhood account? Is there a benefit to either, or what should they do?
Yeah, so it's easy to just throw out percentages, and if you need to hear it, okay, do at least 30%. If you just need me to tell you what to do. Oh my gosh, that's so much. You can do
Mhm.
it. Maybe you need to cut back a little bit. Ideally, catching people before they get their first paycheck is the easiest time to do it. It's like you're going to go from making nothing to all of a sudden, I don't know, what are you making, 30, 40, 50,000 a year, get out of school, maybe even 100K a year. It's like it's super easy then. And ideally, you do it before you decide how much you're going to pay for a car, a new wardrobe, an apartment, new furniture, etc. Most people do all that and then say, "Oh, I'll start investing what's left over." And I promise you, there'll never be anything left over ever the rest of your life. Whatever's in your checking account, you're going to spend it. It's all psychological. It's all going to disappear, no matter how much you make.
Mhm.
So you have to have this mindset before you let the money really hit your checking account, or otherwise it's all gone. So that's number one. Have that. If you don't want to just take my word for it, around the 30% at least, then go to a compound interest calculator and you figure it out. Like, what's your ultimate financial goal? How much money does it take to reach that goal? And then work backwards to decide what percentage you need to start saving and investing. In real practical terms, if you've already designed your entire life, you may have to start small. You may have to start 10%, 9, 1%. Whatever you do, start, even if it's 1%. And then the next part, which you're talking about tactically, is is to then set up that payment to be automated. So check with your employer. You might have a 401k plan. Maybe they do a company match. You got to take that money. It's free money if they're giving it away. Or you could do it on your own. A Roth IRA is a great tool for many people because you pay the taxes now and then it grows tax free. It's an incredible thing. Hope the government never takes that away. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. And then in terms of where you open up the account, this is where it's sort of a matter of opinion. I'll tell you the places I love. Like we, as I mentioned, that we manage over $1 billion for people, and we have it at Charles Schwab. Great place. Fidelity's great. I've definitely had money there over the years.
Mhm.
Vanguard's great. These are companies that I really like. And then in terms of what to invest in, as I mentioned, I can't tell you exactly what to invest in because everyone's situation is very, very different. But I always encourage people to research those target date funds. And the idea is you just, boom, you can look at the returns too. For young people, you look at them, it's like historic. It's like, 8, 10% a year. I mean, that's great. Don't try to chase 20, 30, 50. Don't do it. That's where people end up losing big. And by the way, rich people don't do that.
Mhm.
They don't do it at all. What they do is they focus on making more money so they can invest more money. And what they want to get is, if you get average market returns, you're not doing average, you're doing better than average. Most people don't get average market returns, which sounds really crazy. But people are trying to beat the market. And so then therefore they lose. And so the idea is to, unless you want to become a financial professional, which you can go study for many years and then find out that what I'm telling you right now is exactly what you should have done to begin with. Go ahead and get a PhD in financial
Yeah.
planning to tell me that I'm right. You can go ahead and do that. But focus on whatever it is you want to do and look to save and invest as much as you possibly can.
I've been using Fidelity for many years now. I love it. It works great. Maybe
It's great.
that's kind of what I got onto early. So it's been doing wonders for me. And exactly what you're saying. I mean, this book recommended by but I mean it's Benjamin Graham, The Intelligent Investor. Phenomenal book. I read it a couple
Yep.
of years back, but it's 600 pages to tell you to just put your money into an index fund and let it sit.
Right.
It's all it is. I mean, that's all you need to do. That's what, Munger said. That's the move.
Exactly. Yep.
But the
I
problem
mean,
is, I was going to say the problem is it's too simple for people. And in our materialistic keep up with the Joneses world right now, it sounds so easy, and yet nobody does it because they always have to they don't think of it as paying themselves or buying an asset. They think of it as money they don't get to spend.
Yeah. That's why most people are gonna end up broke.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do you want to? You can have that experience if you want. I think being poor sucks. So
Yeah.
I would hope you have a different experience.
I've got a couple books here, and I'd love to. I mean, I've shown you one. I'd love to kind of get your opinion on if you recommend these or kind of rate them 1 through 10. The first being The Intelligent Investor.
Yeah.
If you,
It's a great book. Warren Buffett's, I think that's one of his favorite authors, Benjamin Graham. He talks a lot about value investing. If you want to nerd out on investing, great book to do it. It's a historic classic. I will say this: things are very, very different now than they were back when that was first written. I don't know when that was, the 40s or 20s or something.
wow.
It's been some revisions along the way and additions and all that, but a great classic. I mean, some of the fundamentals around investing just never change. It have been true, for centuries, quite frankly.
Next one I have is The Psychology of Money. Fantastic book. One of my favorites.
Yep, I actually haven't read that book. I've just haven't gotten around to it. I've written 10 books on financial psychology myself, but I hear great things.
I've got now this one is been getting some heat lately, but Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Another fabulous book. Robert's always sticking his foot in his mouth on social media around predicting the future, which I just think is just fun to watch. He's always predicting impending doom of everything, and eventually he'll be right. But it just nobody can really predict the future. So I always think it's funny when people are doing that on social media because they inevitably get burned pretty hardcore. But I actually love that book. And the reason I love it is because he's talking about his father, who he calls his poor dad. Now, by the way, his dad, I think his dad was a government worker in Hawaii, which is not really a poor way to go, by the way. You can get some really good government jobs in Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for 20 years. But then he talks about his like rich dad, his friend's dad, who's like an entrepreneur and into real estate. And what I love about it is he really points out these different mindsets around approaching money. And I think that was the big eye opener for people. And he does some great storytelling in there.
Yeah, it's a book that I read. I think I read it in early years of high school is when I got put onto it, and I've read it a couple times since. And it definitely is. I think people go into it the wrong way. It doesn't give you the actionable steps. Like it's not going to tell you that, but it does give you the mindset, the rich dad mindset of kind of looking at assets versus liabilities. And he talks about homes as a liability versus people call it an asset. I mean, it doesn't put money into your pocket each month. It actively takes that away.
Yep, absolutely. I'm a homeowner. I love owning my home. And I definitely didn't do it though to like churn out money for me. I mean, I could, but I probably couldn't live in here, or I'd have to have like five other roommates. I have, three that I'm related to. That's enough for now. But yeah, I think it's important to look at it that way. Like, is it a part of my net worth? Absolutely. Is it a an asset that churns out money for me? No. And what if you actually look at real estate, what you're going to find if you look at it historically is it returns historically about the same rate as inflation. So it's like 3-4%. People have like a short-term memory of all this rapid growth when it comes to real estate. You stretch that out over time though, and you realize, wow, your house can really go down in value over time to get that like sort of steady incremental growth. And then at the end of the day, you need to live somewhere. So it's great. Your house is worth, $1 million or whatever. It's like, great. Are you gonna where are you gonna sell it and go live where? You know?
Hmm.
But I will say this, that upwards close to 100%, by the way, of millionaires, it's high 90% of millionaires own real estate. They all do. And most of them own their own homes. And for me, I did it as more of a lifestyle choice. I wanted more of a stable environment for my kids. I was actually renting. I live in Boulder, Colorado now. I lived in Hawaii for 20 years.
Hey, I'm in
And
Denver.
when we moved here, what's that?
I said I'm in Denver.
Oh, excellent. We should be doing this live.
You should have.
And I was living across the street and we were renting. And all of a sudden, the landlord's like, "Oh, I'm going to sell." And living in Boulder, I was like, "Okay, we'll find another place to rent." I could not find a house to rent that would keep my kids in the same schools they were in. And it was at that moment I'm like, "Oh, we got to buy. Like, we just have to buy a house because I just can't have this level of instability around where my kids are going to be going to school for them." And fortunately, we were able to afford to buy. But yeah, so I think it's a lifestyle choice. But I mean, if you buy a home historically, it's going to add to your net worth historically. But
Yeah.
you're also going to be dumping out a bunch of money for repairs and upkeep.
Exactly. My wife, as I just mentioned, we're in Denver. My wife's going to medical school at CU. So we're kind of have to be around that school area because she's going to be here for a bit doing medical school. And we just got numbers back from potential lending, looking at homes, stuff like that. And we got it, for a $450,000 home, $500,000, $550,000, and a $600,000 home, and like estimated payments and all the approval off of ratings. And it's very interesting to look at those numbers and then run them in, a compounding interest calculator and see where we actually going to be making our money for how long we're going to own the home. And the numbers aren't really leaning towards home right now for us for actually making the most amount of money. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and again, in our Start Thinking Rich book, Adrian, my co-author, super interesting guy. You should have him on your podcast. He's great. But he has an entire appendix where he actually runs through his wife's a CPA, like an entire analysis, and it's pretty hard to argue with. Like, the bottom line is if you pay your rent, but if you're committed to saving and investing, and this is the part as a psychologist, I'm like, look, most people aren't going to do it. So if you have sort of a forced vehicle, like every month I have to grow my net worth because I have to pay my mortgage, that's where people end up creating a lot of wealth, is because they have no choice. Whereas most people don't have the discipline to take what they would be paying on overage for home ownership and investing the difference. But if you had that sort of discipline, I mean, renting, it's hard to argue that, renting is a bad financial move.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting, especially with the rates being the way they are right now. It's hard
Exactly.
to, and then you can get into the whole rabbit hole of like buying down rates versus the time that you have to spend in the home, and it's just a whole fun spiel versus renting. Most places will give you like pretty good sign-on incentives, so like 10 weeks free or something like that, and then you can really take advantage of those. So I don't know. I mean, it's a conversation my wife and I are having, but I think most people, when they talk about buying a home from the value of this is the best move for me financially, That doesn't seem to be true. I think you can definitely make the argument that buying a home is can be the best thing for you as a personal life. Like, I can't wait to own my own home. I want to have my own yard. I want to have my own stuff. I want to make the modifications. But financially, maybe not the best move right now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, and anytime I hear anything like, "Oh, you always have to do this, you always have to do that," I mean, it's rarely the case.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I like it as a psychologist. I like it as sort of a forced net worth builder,
Mm-hmm. I
and
mean,
also you
Dave,
get some leverage too. Like a lot of times you're putting 20% down, and then you know that
yeah.
that 3 or 4% return, gets compounded to 12 or 15 because of how much money you actually have down versus how much it's appreciating. But people also don't realize that, your home value could go down massively. And if you're in a position where you need to sell it, you could take a huge financial loss. So this idea that property is always going to be going up, that's not true. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there are periods of time where it really takes a hit, and stays down for a while.
I think we need to talk briefly. I know we mentioned day trading and on crypto, at least, everybody wants to make that big money because they have the stories. People have made a ton of money very
Yes.
fast. More people have lost it though. What are your opinions on cryptocurrency as like a long-term buy, at least for the big ones like Ethereum and Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a great question. I First of all, I do see crypto as a legitimate asset class.
Mm.
I really do. And by the way, it's like we haven't had a new asset class, I think, for like 100 years or something. I mean, this is like a big cultural event for us. I will say this too, that when I started looking at crypto, I think there was about 100 coins. And I should look right now. And then I noticed that it went up to couple thousand, then 10,000, then 15,000, then 100,000. And I mean, I don't even know, but are we up to like 3 million coins now or something ridiculous?
Probably.
By the end of this podcast, there's going to be a Chase Merrill coin, I'm sure.
Fingers crossed.
It's like, um, it's like, guys, I hope you understand this, that 99.999% of these coins are going to be worth $0. So
Mhm.
just keep that in mind. And so with that caveat, I let me just say this too. It's the most volatile asset class. Like Bitcoin is the most volatile asset that's ever existed in human history. What do I mean by that? I mean up and down and up and down. So I think there's really strong cases to be made that some of these existing coins could go on to be worth millions, and I think there's really strong cases that they could go on to be worth $0. And so when it comes to actual wealthy people and people who actually don't want to lose all their money, I think that a lot of professional financial advisors will say, getting exposure to that asset class, good idea, if not
Mhm.
a great idea, but just be really careful with what percentage of your money you're putting in there. And I've heard people say, I'm not sure I'd go more than 3 or 5% of your overall investable net worth. So, but again, that's a matter of opinion. It's a matter of debate. But I will say that the class in general is just like, I mean, 99% of it's just going to go to a big fat zero. So don't be left holding the bag.
The meme coins. The meme coins are
Yeah.
are where people, because it's true. That's where the stories are. Like, I remember when Doge was like the first crazy meme coin, and I
Yeah.
remember being there when it was like shooting up to above $1, and you could get in when it was 1,000th of a cent, and so many people were making money, and then it crashed right back down. And it's very interesting to see those meme coins
I know. And you
fluctuate.
like to think that, oh, well, I would have sold at $1. It's like, no, you wouldn't
No,
have.
you would have.
Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, in retrospect, in hindsight, you're like, oh, of course, you just buy here and sell there, and look what would have happened. No, most people blow it.
It's that psychology of greed a little bit more, just a little bit more, and then I'll
Absolutely.
sell it.
Yep. And then before you know it, you can't sell it because the trading platform shut down, which happens. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. And you lose all your money. And it's hard to watch too. It's hard to watch that people go through that cycle.
Yeah. I mean, that was crazy. They took, like, that was a wild time. We had the meme coins, and then we had GameStop on the stock market, and then you couldn't trade that, and Robinhood
Yeah.
was going down. That was crazy.
Yeah, crazy. All of a sudden you're going, huh, I'm not sure if this is exactly what it's cracked up to be.
Well, Brad, I really appreciate your time today. I have a tradition on the podcast where I ask two questions. The first one being, who do you think I should speak with to who do you think I should speak with next and why? And then the second is based off a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote. If we encounter a man of rare intellect, we should ask him what books he reads. What's a book you recommend?
Oh man. Okay. It's always dangerous asking an author that,
I know I
but
was gonna
I'm not
you
gonna I'm not gonna say
no,
mine.
I was gonna say give the yours because we've mentioned it, but we never gave the full title. So give yours, and
All
then
right.
we'll get another.
So I will. So to answer your first question, I'm gonna say start thinking rich. But the reason I say this is the guy you need to have on is Adrian Brambilla, who's my co-author. Super successful entrepreneur. Um, family, immigrated from Mexico. I mean, just started out with nothing. Incredible rags to riches family story. He used to dance for T-Pain. I mean, he has like an incredible story. And we wrote this bestseller, Start Thinking Rich, 21 harsh truths to take you from broke to financial freedom. But he's a great interview, fascinating life story. So I would recommend him as the next guest. And then when it comes to books, oh, so the one that I'm going to go to, and I don't remember the guy who wrote it. I always mispronounce his name, so I don't even try. But it's called *Sapiens*. Have you
Uh,
read the book
yeah,
*Sapiens*?
or Yuval
Thank you.
Harari. Yeah, I've got it right back
See, yeah, you're
here.
braver than I am. I would have butchered the last name. I love it because it it really demonstrates the power of what I would call metacognition. And by that I mean thinking about your thinking.
Mm,
Like we're just going through life thinking that we got it figured out and we kind of understand some basic things, but we don't know anything. I mean, so much of what we do is just passed down to us through tradition. And I mean, even like he brings this up too, which is a great point. Like the idea of home ownership in general, okay. But the idea that you need to live in your own home, even like this is just something that we assume. Like people actually feel bad about themselves if they don't have their own place, and we judge them. Oh, you live with your parents? I'm not going to date you. It's a sign of low status. It's like just understand this. This is something that we've just made up as a culture. Like most of the rest of the world live with other people. They're not dumb. It's actually a really smart move. We actually have a chapter in here, get a roommate, and we
mhm.
run the numbers. Like if you have one roommate, this is how many more million you'd have when you retire. Two roommates, three roommates, four roommates. We're talking like multi-millionaire if you just had a roommate who paid half the rent, let alone two or three. I mean, you're a multi-millionaire, like problem solved. It's like, oh, I don't have money to save and invest. Get a roommate. Now you're a millionaire. Any questions? So it's stuff like that. Like, and he just has a series of these things that make you really think through how we ended up where we are, how the lies we tell ourselves. And I just love it because we can sort of snap out of it when you realize so much of what you're doing in life, you're just doing automatically because it's just sort of been passed down to us.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book. I haven't read his second book yet. I need to, but I completely agree. I highly recommend people check out his book, *Sapiens*. It's really good. Well, Brad, where can people get more from you? Where can they find you? Where can they follow you?
Yep. Just social media at Dr. Brad Klontz. Whatever platform you're on, I'm pumping out content.
Yeah, I will say your YouTube is fantastic. You have a lot of great videos, very insightful, and they help. But I mean, people need to learn. People need to, and then they need to do it.
Have you seen me on TikTok at all?
I have not seen you on TikTok.
Yeah, I've got like 800,000 followers there. But I don't post the same content on other platforms because I'm ridiculous on TikTok, right? To try to capture that younger audience.
Yeah.
I try to calm it down for YouTube and LinkedIn and X and all that, and Facebook. So, but I'm on all those places.
Okay, so I gotta check out the TikTok content. I'll link it. Well, Brad, thank you again for your time today.
Yep. Thanks for having me.